Next on our agenda is our pretrial risk assessment at the Superior Court of California, County of Ventura. Also, this is not an action item. There are no materials in your binder. And we welcome Judge Brian Back, Superior Court of Ventura County, and to introduce your panel presenters.
Just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, it says pretrial assessment. We're talking about the very first appearance in a criminal court when the likes of me, because I am a car thief, shows up. And we're going to tell you what happens. There's 3 people who were supposed to be here from the probation department, but one of them fell ill and did not want to get anybody here ill. I was going to introduce her as Patrick Hair on Fire Olivares, but I can introduce Terry Wingnut Hart, sitting over here, because I haven't known Michelle as long. I just have to introduce her as Michelle Larson. And just the way she talks, you're going to go, that is one sweet young lady. Not that Terry isn't. But I'm a car thief. I'm a really good car thief. I have stolen cars all over the United States. And the reason I go from state to state is because the states don't have a real good case management system that connects so that they know who I am. And I like to get partners with me because, you know, somebody's got to be salvaged here, and I don't want it to be me. I mean, I want it to be me. And so I met a young lady. Her name is Jody Jones. She's sitting right here. And Jody is down and out. She's a good worker, but she got laid off several weeks ago. Nothing that she did wrong. It was just the economy. She's a single mom. She has 2 children. And she's doing a bang-up job, except she needs a job. And the rent comes due in a week. She's been told, after her latest interview, that she's got the job as long as she passes background, and that's not going to happen until May 15th. I know she's got no record. She is a model citizen. She was this young man, except now she's a little older. She's a model citizen. So I tell her, you know, I have a heart. I say, Jody, look, you need the money, right? Because the landlord's going to kick you out. You've got 2 young children there, and you've got to feed them. And I explained to her that I'm a car thief. But you could make some quick money if you join me. And I convince her that, you know, it's a victimless crime because the people get covered on their insurance anyway. And she is desperate. She says, oh, okay, what do I do? I say, well, meet me down at the wharf, down on Bay or Beach down there, because that's where the tourists park their cars, and we're going to get one. And we'll unload this thing real quickly. I know how to do this, and we'll get you some money so you can cover your rent, and then you're going to probably get that job on May 15th. She says, okay. A little trepidation there. I'm down there. I got my Slim Jim out. I'm working on this car. Jody, in the meantime, has said, this is stupid. I can't steal a car. But she has also a very big heart, so she actually comes down there to tell me that she can't help me out. Well, I got the Slim Jim on the driver's side. She comes up on the other side and she says, Mr. Car Thief, you know what, I can't do this. And I say, Jody, come on. Remember, it's a victimless crime. She says, no, and who's that lady coming up right now? Well, that lady is the car owner. And she comes up and she gives me a little push because I'm trying to get into her car. Things unwind. It just happens that there's a police officer there. And Jody and I get arrested. And we get taken before the Superior Court the next day where bail is going to be set. And I don't care what the bail is because, like I told you in the beginning, I'm a car thief and I'm really good. I have got more money than I know what to do with. And I got to deal with the bail bondsman anyway. I've been making 3.5% for a long time because he knows it's steady business and he's going to make his money. So I'm out. Jody doesn't have 2 nickels to rub together. So the crime is 10851, which is actually the license plate of the car I own. There's a potential 245A because I had a deadly weapon. I had that Slim Jim. I actually touched the lady. There was a touch there, so at a minimum, it's going to be a basic battery. And all Jody's saying, I didn't do anything wrong. The lady's saying, are you kidding? She came over. In fact, she came over and tried to help me, when in fact, what she was trying to do was help that lady from me doing any harm to her. So what's the bail? Is it $20,000? No, it might get kicked up because potential 245. So the bail's maybe $30,000. Maybe it's $50,000 because as we know, PC 1269BC requires us annually in the courts to update our bail schedules. And everybody loves to sit on the bail schedule committee, right? 'Cause it's so exciting. But also, Rule 4.102 says, in general, bail is used to ensure the presence of the defendant. That's what our rule says. That's the opening language, which is kind of interesting language, in general. We know when we're setting bail, and when you read about bail, yeah, that's the primary reason, but public protection is also in the back of our minds. Public safety. She sits in jail for how many weeks, and we know how long it can take because she cannot post bail. So in the meantime, the landlord serves his notice because there's been nobody there to pay the rent. In the meantime, her two young girls, I didn't explain that she doesn't have anybody who can take care of those two young girls. Does CPS show up? Potentially, because she's in jail. She might be looking at an assault with a deadly weapon, and the Child Protective Services doesn't like that. By the time she gets out, possibly those two children are in foster care somewhere. Can that happen? Yeah, it can happen. But if you show up in Ventura County and some other counties that have adopted a program, there's a possibility that her good record is recognized and she will not be squatting in jail waiting for the next court appearance. And Terry's going to tell you how that works. And then Michelle's going to give you the statistics. Now remember, Ventura County, we have 29 judges. We're a county of less than 1 million people. So the numbers you're going to see are going to be reflective of 2 years of statistics in one courtroom, because we tried this out in one courtroom. Everybody around here knows that one of the challenges that you have in adopting a program like this are our own colleagues. Because nobody wants to release somebody that they're kind of unsure of with the possibility that that person might go out and do something terrible. And what we all have to, as judges, we know, get over it. Because we're going to release somebody OR or somebody who doesn't show us any type of potential for violence, and they are going to kill somebody. It's going to happen. The reason is because we're dealing with humans. We cannot make orders that make sure that everybody is in fact protected from the people that come before us in the courts. But anyway, go for it.
Chief Justice and members of the Judicial Council, thank you very much for the opportunity to share our pretrial program with you today. Thank you to Judge Back for always being an advocate of our collaborative programs and an advocate for the services that we provide to our clients. So how did this all come about? Really, in Ventura County, it came about because of some early planning due to the Public Safety Realignment Act. We needed bed space in our jail. 65 to 70% of our jail population were pretrial inmates. Yeah. So basically, my chief deputy went to a big pretrial conference for jail administrators, got a bunch of information, and while she was there, she started sending us information. Hey, we need to do this, you need to get it started, come up with a mission statement, and just started sending emails left and right. And I know my chief deputy, hair on fire, Pat Oliveris, when she says, hey, I need to get this done, you need to do this, you need to get it done. And you really need to go in with a passion, as much passion as she has. So basically, at that point, we looked at what could we do. Our CCP, the Community Corrections Partnership, we obtained permission from them to start a pretrial services program. And it actually quickly became a goal of theirs for us to do this. So we got a team together that included our judge, district attorney, our public defender, probation, and we already had a very strong collaboration, but we worked real quickly and worked together to develop an eligibility criteria of who we were going to work with to try to get the high-risk offenders out, or low-risk offenders out, to make more room for our high-risk offenders. And with that in mind, I'm going to leave it to Michelle here to kind of talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of our program and our outcomes. And again, it's still a pilot, it's in one courtroom, but we do have some fun numbers to share with you. Now I'm going to come back at the end and I'm going to talk about some really fun things about some unintended benefits about this program. Remember, the goal initially is to free up beds for the high-risk offenders due to public safety realignment. And that was one of the goals, although there was a lot of other great goals and benefits that came up that I'll share with you towards the end. But with that, I'm going to let Michelle talk about the nuts and bolts and some of our fun outcomes.
Good morning, everyone. We typically take this program kind of on the road. We've presented in other counties, other agencies that are looking to start the pretrial program. So this is very much an honor to be here before you today to present our program. So in Ventura County, we developed a pretrial mission statement with two goals in mind. We want to provide our court with a validated pretrial assessment tool to help them number one, determine the likelihood of a defendant appearing in court, and number two, reduce the risk of a defendant in the community reoffending. Our pretrial committee came to a consensus that we would screen defendants with non-prison eligible 1170 offenses. That's what the district attorney agreed upon and the public defender. We have a great collaboration in Ventura County, so this is what we came up with. The defendants would need to meet certain criteria, such as they'd have to live within our community so we could supervise them, and they could not have any type of hold that would prevent them from being released. So each morning, the district attorney's office would emails probation pretrial referrals for defendants that would be appearing in court that afternoon for arraignment. We run their rap sheets, obtain the circumstances of their arrest, and the probation officers in my unit interview defendants in custody that morning. They obtain their statement, they make a recommendation to the court, and we use the Ohio pretrial assessment tool. We ask the 7 questions in the assessment to base our recommendation. 4 of the questions are self-reported, such as employment, residential stability, drug use, and issues with severe drug use. There are an additional 3 questions, such as age, FTAs, and history of prior jail incarcerations that we look at. If a defendant scores low on the assessment tool, we do not recommend they have any type of supervision terms. They're just basically released on their own recognizance. They're very low-level offenders. If they score a moderate, we recommend an OR release with supervision. And if they score high, we do not recommend that they be released into the community. So in the past 2 years, we've completed 778 reports and pretrial assessments. 339 have been released to our pretrial program. What we do, in a nutshell, we have a senior deputy probation officer. She appears in court each afternoon. And once our judge makes an order for an OR release with supervision, they're given an intake appointment right there in the courtroom to meet with probation upon their release. They come in for check-in appointments weekly. We test for drug and alcohol per the court's order, if needed. And we send reminder notices to them, reminding them to come to court. We send notices in the mail. We've even gotten advanced in our county, and we can text message, which is, what everyone does nowadays. So we're kind of with the times. We text message the offenders the day before the hearing to remind them to appear in court. Some defendants do violate their terms of pretrial supervision once in a while, and they're returned to court. In our county, our particular judge wanted a zero tolerance policy. They felt that they were getting released, and any violation, the judge wanted them back before him in court. So we do that. We do a status report. We have them back in front of the judge if they were to test positive for drugs or alcohol, and then it's up to the court to decide. Sometimes they're given a second chance, and sometimes they're remanded back into custody depending on the type of violation.
Before you move on from this one, the evidence-based practice actually doesn't suggest zero tolerance. But to get it started, that's how it was going to happen, or it wasn't going to happen. And so the statistics you'll see, you have to factor in, it's zero tolerance.
And some counties do use like the 3 strikes model. They're given a couple of chances with positive tests to go to treatment and so forth. But we do let the judge know of any violation. So after 10 weeks of success on pretrial supervision, we send them back to court for successful termination. We also send them a survey, which is new for our county, to survey this population. Before, I don't know if it mattered what they thought when we were supervising them. But we do want their input, what's working, what's not working, and we really take that into consideration.
Let me comment there. A survey, this is a customer feedback document that a lot of the probation officers were not real happy with thinking about doing. But in fact, it's been extremely valuable for probation.
Right. In a couple minutes, we're going to share a video with you of two participants that participated in the program that had great success. And so let's see here. Some of our statistics, we've released 339 defendants into the community in the past 2 years. We have, 83% of them have been male, 17% female, and 318 have remained arrest-free. So we have 21 defendants that were arrested for new crimes, 19 new misdemeanors, and 2 felonies. Some of these, the charges ended up being dismissed, but that was their rate on supervision. All right. So of those released on their own recognizance, 86% returned to court for each of their hearings. We recently obtained stats from our courts, and we wanted to know how those that posted bail did. Did they do any better than what we were doing? Was our program for nothing? So the courts provided us information, and if someone posted cash bail during the same 2 years that we were running our program, their appearance rate was 81%. And we found out just a couple of days ago, Judge Back, that they only tracked the first appearance. So that was 81% chance of appearing for their first arraignment. We track every court appearance until they plead guilty, and our success rate is 86%. So we think we have kind of a gauge now of how we're doing with our program. You want to take it over from here? Okay, Ms. Hart will take it over. Thank you.
So the bail decision is a monumental task which carries enormous consequences not only for the pretrial defendant, but also for the safety of the community and the integrity of our judicial process. So that's a pretty powerful statement, and Judge Back alluded to nobody wants to release somebody that's going to go out and do something bad. So one of the unintended benefits of this program was that we were able to give the judge a lot more information, allowing him to make a much more informed decision. He didn't have to rely on his gut and his intuition anymore. He could rely on the science of the risk assessment tool and make a much more informed decision because he got to know the defendant a little bit better and their situation. Got to know Joy a little bit better. So the other unintended benefits of this program were that it kept families connected. With that in mind, it kept youth in their home. She didn't lose her 2 children. It kept youth in their homes, not in the foster care system. It also provided financial stability for a lot of homes. The breadwinners were allowed to remain employed and remain at home and remain funding their households. So with that in mind, we would like to share with you 2 testimonials. It's over on the laptop. 2 testimonials of 2 participants that shared, and it was really their statements that kind of gave us that, oh, that's another benefit that we weren't recognizing because we were just focusing on jail bed space. So it brings the human aspect to our program.
Hi, my name is Elvia, and I just wanted to say that how this program helped me being able to, because when I got arrested, instead of posting bail, I was able to work on my case from the outside instead of from in jail, because it would have been so difficult, me not having a job financially. And it just gave me, my case went on for a year or so, and it just helped me financially, being able to take care of what I had to take care of for my 11-year-old son, and being able to explain to him what was going on. And I just want other people out there to know that it does help. This program does help, especially if you're doing good. You have nothing to worry about, and yeah, it just helped to be able. This program helped to be able to work on your case from out here instead of being incarcerated.
And if you had to stay in custody, what might have happened?
Oh, it would have been so difficult because, like I said, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I don't work, and it wouldn't have happened. I would have had my housing taken. My son would have been lost because he's an honor roll student and he's school smart, not street smart. I don't know if you know what that means, but he just would have lost it. But yes, it definitely helped in that area.
Any other areas of your life where it was beneficial?
With my family, you know, especially my grandmother, because she was there for me from day one, giving me the rides, and from jail, I wouldn't have been able to make phone calls, call the attorneys, make arrangements. Oh man, it wouldn't have been possible at all. And to leave you, I just want to say how much this program really helped and benefited me. To all the people out there that are going through what I went through, just know that it really did help, from being, you know, the pretrial, being able to work on it out here instead of in there. This program really does benefit. If you work it, it'll work. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
My name is Sam. I got myself in a little problem in Halloween of 2013, and I was taken into custody by the Ventura County Sheriff. And I normally take care of my invalid father, who is now 84, and I am an in-home supportive service caregiver. And I didn't realize at the time, you know, the ramifications of what I had done, and you know, I didn't know if I was going to end up having to stay in jail and my father not have anybody to take care of him. And in court, I was given this opportunity, which I wasn't aware that it was a new thing, to be in this pretrial release. And you know, I was unable to post bail. It was absolutely financially impossible. Even if we'd gone to a bail bondsman, it would have pretty much been undoable, because we live at or near the poverty line, and it just wouldn't have worked. It just couldn't have happened. And my father, you know, I had my mother and brother are deceased, and so there really is no family here left except for myself. And he would not do well in a state facility, even if he was able to get in one. So it was really a concern of mine that I would, you know, that I was going to be stuck in the jail. And so when I was given the opportunity to do this program, you know, I was 100% for, you know, whatever needed to be done. And I was allowed to get out on my own recognizance, and you know, I was looking at 240 days in jail, and what I needed to do, I did. I took care of my father. You know, I have to be there pretty much 24 hours a day. I did what was asked of me by the probation department. I went into recovery. I now have 2 years clean and sober, and I complied with everything that they asked from me, and I made sure I was at the probation reports, you know, at the office on time, you know, all those things that were necessary. And during the course of my going to court, I was told that they were going to delete the possibility of jail time. So that was off my mind, and I just continued to do what was asked of me, and it really enabled me to physically and emotionally care for my father and myself, and to, you know, look at things differently than I had, especially that one particular evening. And you know, it really has been a great thing that, you know, that they have this program, you know, because there was, you know, I don't personally think I'm a great candidate for jail, and the opportunity to get out of there, you know, was, you know, I would have done anything practically. So this was a godsend, and you know, if it can be provided to other people in similar situations, or, you know, that that should be, and they're compliant and they do what they need to do, then I think it should be, available to the people that need it. And it can only go to help people. The situations in the jail are less than desirable, and a lot of times some people don't need to be in there, and I felt that in my situation this worked out very, very well.
Do you feel that there's any other areas of your life that benefited from?
Well, probably, getting into recovery. I gave up the drugs a long time ago, but I continued to drink, and that's what actually partially led to this little incident. And I just made a decision to not drink and not to use, and to go to meetings, participate in it, and I still, I go to the same place that I did 2 years ago. And I go several times a week, and all I can say about that is, people need to give that a chance, because there's a lot to be gained from it. I know that it's a major problem, in society, just drugs and booze, and people don't realize that you don't need to do those to have a good time. And I know I don't. I realize, boy, I can have actually a better time when I'm not drunk and not on drugs than I ever did on them. So, that's, at least for me, was a good decision for me. And, I always try to tell people, give it a chance, because you may not have another one. And this whole thing here, not being in jail, every day I was in there, I was worried about my dad, and in fact, we couldn't afford for me to call him, because the calls are really expensive from the jail. I mean, the financial part of it can be devastating, and I'm really just grateful for this whole thing.
As Michelle said, we took this on the road. Orange County asked us, Charlie Marginis asked us to come down and give a presentation, and we did it to the Sheriff's Department, and I think they've adopted the program. But we didn't have this until we did Beyond the Bench. And Michael Roosevelt, who you all know because he gave us some educational presentation last time we were here, he said, hey, we'd like you to give the bail presentation Beyond the Bench. And if you've been to Beyond the Bench, that's all about kids and family and little guys. And we're going, really, Beyond the Bench? And you go, oh, yeah, kind of makes sense, doesn't it? And then they got these things, and it's like, wow. I mean, we can't say it any better than just listening to the circumstances of their lives and how they were impacted by the ability to be out when the only thing, because remember, I'm never going to spend any time in custody as a really, really good car thief, because I've got the money. And that's all it comes down to with these guys. So Sam, 2 years, 2 months sober. Last time he drank, he was sitting on a front porch shooting off a gun. And he kind of realized that wasn't a good thing to do. And I mean, another unintended consequence, I mean, it was interesting enough to hear the emotion on the potential inability of him to take care of his father on a day-to-day basis. But then to find out that he's also been clean and sober for 2 years, 2 months, which I think points to one of the reasons a program like this is so good. We have to make public safety decisions all the time, but public safety decisions are not made just for the moment. They're not just made for what might happen in the next couple of days. They're made for what is going to happen for the next months and years and et cetera. This is not a program where probation comes back and says to the judge, this is what you should do. This is a program which says, here's the information, judge. Your bail clerk or your bail deputy's already worked up the bail, so you know what the bail is. Here's the additional information. You do what you want to do. And our first judge to handle it, he fesses up. He said, there were a couple of them who I actually thought the guy should be released, and so I went against their recommendation to keep them detained. And that went on for several months, and we ran his statistics, and he had to admit that they were worse than the statistics which were the result of the program. Now, what's happened in our court, which is really good, This particular courtroom where we're doing it has had a change. We have our third judge in there right now, but the two that have already been in there, they're sold. And so judges throughout our court are seeing the value of doing this. And of course, the sheriff is ecstatic. And what's interesting, and I think is interesting, is if necessity is the mother of invention, we didn't need AB 109 to do this. We really didn't. But AB 109 and all those other changes to the criminal law have certainly created that necessity to do something. And I think we're a whole lot happier about the ameliorative effects on the individuals than we are about reducing the jail population. So I kind of like to think of it as that's the tertiary consequence, getting jail beds available. The primary good of this program is addressing public safety appropriately and addressing it in the future. I think Justice McConnell made some comment about those in the juvenile court. A lot of the things that are being implemented at the adult level were things that have been done in the juvenile court now for 15, 16 years. And so you kind of, because you're dealing with a kid, you are looking forward there. And so this is, it's a wonderful program. Any questions? We'll bring it to your county if you want it.
Justice Hull.
Justice Hull.
Thank you, Chief. It's a very interesting presentation, very innovative, and I think it's the wave of the future. I think it probably should be. As we all know, the question of bail and pretrial release is beginning to be a very, very important issue, especially or most importantly for people who come into the system who are low-income people who probably cannot post bail. And I think this is an excellent program. I just had one question, and it's more of just a curiosity, I suppose. As I understood it, you make as a condition of this type of pretrial release that the defendant or the arrestee has to abstain from alcohol and drug use. And I was just curious as to the alcohol use. That is otherwise legal activity for a pretrial defendant, an arrestee. Has anybody ever challenged that requirement? Is it something along the lines of, as we all know, when the trial court post-trial grants probation and has reasonable conditions that it's sort of the defendant can take it or leave it? But what has that ever been challenged that the people who benefit from this program have to stay clear of alcohol?
Terry's going to follow up with this, but we are all cognizant of the fact that we're dealing with people who are not convicted of anything.
Right.
That's everybody's fully cognizant of that. Why don't you comment on the type of things?
Sure. We have not been challenged on that issue yet, but it is very difficult to test for alcohol when they're coming in. I mean, we have the breathalyzer, all of those sorts of things. And actually, the one offender that we had that did go out and do something pretty bad afterwards was a 4-time DUI offender that did go out and consume alcohol and hit a pedestrian in another county, not in our county, but doesn't make it any better. So with that in mind, we've actually are looking at using a new device called Scram that is an immediate continuous alcohol monitor for those particular types of cases. I'm pretty sure we will probably get challenged, at least by the public defender at that point. But again, this is a voluntary program. They have to agree to the terms of pretrial, and I think they would much rather abstain from alcohol use than sit in jail, especially if they have families to care and provide for. So at this point, we have not been challenged on it, and they agree to the terms.
Okay,
That's a
thank
really
you.
quick one. We do not recommend alcohol terms for someone that doesn't have a history with alcohol abuse. So it's not standard. Drug and alcohol terms are not standard. We look at the history. Unless they have DUI priors or drug offenses, we don't recommend those terms. We tailor it to, for instance, stolen property terms if they're thieves, that sort of thing. So they have to have a nexus to the crime they've committed with their priors.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Probation doesn't go out. Because they're not on probation, these people yet. The only time that there might be a check is when they come in to a kiosk or to a check-in to update probation on where they are.
What's the overall ballpark cost of the additional responsibilities that have come with your pretrial program?
I don't know it offhand because I didn't bring my budget.
We could find out.
But I could definitely find out for you. But the pretrial program itself is very small. It's one senior DPO and 2 DPOs that write the reports, and then Michelle, who has oversight of them, along with a bunch of other duties and responsibilities. But so it's relatively small. And as we in Ventura County grow the program, I will obviously need to grow the resources in that unit. But it's relatively small, and it's a very small piece of our realignment dollars that is doing this pilot. Yeah, well, I have the budget, but I don't have it
Okay.
here with me.
We'll try to find out before we close.
Thank you. I just think that would be of some interest to counties as they think about what they are capable of performing with their resources. But thank you, an excellent presentation, and I think it was surprising for all of us to see and hear about the other benefits that come from this program. Thank you.
Thank you.